Welcome to the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast with your host and Guelph Realtor, Ryan Waller. This podcast is designed to provide information for those buying and selling homes in the Guelph area to make the process more informative, fun, and a little less stressful. Now, on with the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast. My name is Ryan Waller and I work in Guelph Real Estate with my wife, Beth. This is episode number 18, where we will talk about the sales in Guelph Real Estate for the period of July 1st to 15th, 2025. First, if you are listening to this, there is a blog version which gets into more detail on our website, bethandryan.ca. And we just posted a YouTube video that we do for Guelph Today every month that gives an overview of the first half of the year in commentary. A little less stats and data and a little more boots on the ground, what's happening out there in the market. We did see a slight rebound towards the end of June in the real estate market here in Guelph. And it looks like it has continued into July. Starting in July, going from July 1st all the way until December 31st is a slow decline. If you can picture real estate sales by month, they go from slow in January and sort of ramp up to a peak in May, sometimes into June, before they slowly come off that peak and then ramp back down again. So it's almost like an image of a mountain where it goes up to the top and then comes down again. And we are on the way down the mountain. As we move closer to December, from this point onwards, month after month, the volumes go down. That doesn't necessarily mean by any means that the prices go down. It just means that there's less activity, less people shopping, and overall less transactions. We do see a bit of a blip in September between Labor Day and Thanksgiving for those people who are back in their school routines and want to move before Christmas. So that's really the last hurrah or the second spring market before we get the winter slowdown. Today, we are going to talk about specifically July and what we see as going on. And July is an interesting month every year because as school is out and kids and families go on vacation, they tend to look at real estate less. And on average, over a full year in Guelph, about 5 houses sell a day. And that takes into account some of the slower months doing less than 5 and some of the busier months doing over 5 and working out to an average of 5. So as we get into July, we tend to fall below the average of 5. And so far, month to date, the first 2 weeks in, we are at 4.9 sales per day. So we're pretty much on the average, which is surprising. It's actually ahead of 2024. But it is encouraging as well that there's more activity going on in the market. It could very well be that sellers are sort of coming down from their idea of what they believe their house is worth, and buyers are being a little more realistic in what they think they can get a house for. Both sides had an extreme, I would say, back in May and June where sellers were asking prices that were a few years old and buyers were starting to test who was desperate and offer really low prices out there in the market. And I think both sides now are realizing that they need to be a little more realistic. And so I think we're starting to see transaction volume rebound a little bit. Nothing earth-shattering, but definitely off of the lows. There have been a total of 74 houses sold from the period of July 1st to 15th. 54 of those in the detached home segment, no fees, and 20 in the condo segment. Within the detached segment, there was a low price, $402,000 on a house downtown, and there was a high price of $1,399,900 in Courtright East, on the east side of Gordon Street, and that would be south of Stone Road. Overall, the average was $868,000. It was higher in June because there were quite a few homes selling over $1 million. Quite a few actually selling over $1 million in June. Total homes sold at an average of 98.3 of the last listed asking price, so still room to negotiate on detached homes, no doubt about it. Of the 54 that sold, 7 of them were over the asking, 4 were at the asking, and the remainder, 43 or 80%, sold under the asking. So when 80% of homes are selling under the asking, you know there is room to negotiate. One trend that we're starting to notice here is that there is a bit of a surge in the $1 million plus segment. We noticed this in June. We made a note of it. 31% of the homes sold of the detached homes that sold were over $1 million. This segment has been sluggish over the last little while, but it looks like it's picking up a bit of steam. So far this month, we're sitting at 24% selling over $1 million. And this, I think, is coming for a variety of reasons. One of them is that move-up buyers, so those people that are in $700,000 or $800,000, $900,000 homes, are starting to see that their segment's still moving, but what they're buying into is a bit sluggish. So there's value to be had there. They can sell a little bit higher and negotiate a bit harder on the home they're buying. So that may be where it's coming from, but it is something we're keeping our eyes on. In the condo segment, there were 20 units that sold here. The low price was $401,000. The high price was $1.2 million. That was in St. George's Park at the Stewart condos there. And the overall average was $620,000. If you take out that one high sale of $1.2 million, the actual average was $589,000. So that one sale is swinging the average significantly. Total homes in this segment sold at 97.6% of the last asking. 2 of them sold over, 2 of them sold at the asking, and the remaining 18 out of 20 sold at under the asking, which is 80%. Not much has changed in this segment. We've talked about this recently where, actually I talked about it in the recent video I just did, where this segment sells about 1 to 1.5 units per day. And there are currently about 250 on the market. So you have to make yours more attractive if you want to sell it in this market because there are a lot of them. We rolled into the end of June at 9% decline in transactions. I have a whole video that I just posted on YouTube with some commentary on that and the gap between buyers and sellers and their expectations. And it looks like we may pick up a little bit of ground in July, but now with the biggest volume months behind us, it's unlikely we're going to move into the green. And I suspect that the remainder of 2025 will continue in the same trend that we're seeing. Slightly below last year, slightly lower prices, nothing really exciting, and potentially even more volume than we have now. We're approaching 600 houses on the market in Guelph real estate, which I don't think we've ever had. And there are sellers that are starting to take their houses off the market because they're frustrated with the way things are going in hopes that in the future it's going to get better. But, and I've talked about this at the end of 2023, we talked about the same thing where if all of those people do all of that sort of thing, they're all probably going to come back at the same time. So the problem is just delayed a little bit further. It's probably going to happen again. So I do not anticipate any big movements in price upwards over the next 6 months. As always, if you need Guelph real estate advice, you can listen to more of this podcast and give us a subscribe. Read us on our blog at bethandryan.ca. You can also book a meeting with us if you want to talk Guelph real estate. It's a popular choice for people. And if you want to watch our videos, give us a subscribe on YouTube. We publish these regularly, and your support would be nice. Thank you. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.